Welcome to another episode of Live from the Blue Seats. I'm your host, Rob, joined by Dave, JL producing, but you won't hear from him this week. And this is the first in-season, regular season episode of the podcast here for the 25-26 season. And Dave and I are jumping on to record this minutes after the Rangers' first win of the year, a 4-0 shutout of the Buffalo Sabres. Lots of good in that game, some not so good as well. We'll also quickly recap the Penguins game opening night, get to your questions, and go from there. How are you, Dave?
I am good. Can't complain. Really funny piece as I was coming upstairs. I sat down and then my wife asked where my laptop was because, she uses it she has a side job as a teacher and she was grading and she was looking to grade and she usually uses my laptop. So I heard her say, where's your laptop? And I just walked out of the office and I looked at her and she goes, "Oh, right. Okay, never mind."
It's a podcast night.
Yes, I kind of need the laptop to do that. It was really funny.
Well, we're going to try and wrap this up quick. It is late for us to dads here, but I wanted to jump on after the Buffalo game. So we got a 2-game sample to draw from. Obviously the Rangers in very weird fashion, but no two seasons are alike. They got shut out on opening night, 3-0. Of course, 2 of those empty net goals by the Pittsburgh Penguins, a team no one thinks will be good this season. I'm sure they probably won't be good this season, but disappointing outcome there. But then they turn right back around and shut out the Buffalo Sabres on the road 4-0. So they get that goal differential into positive territory, and they've got something to feel good about here as they head into their first weekend of the year. But let's start with opening night. And I think, we have always preached on this podcast whenever there have been coaching changes, and we've covered a few of them amazingly in the 5 or so years we've been doing it, 6 almost years that we've been doing it, that, you have to be patient with a new coach, especially through the first 2 months of the year. There is just hockey is a fast game that very much comes down to reading and reacting within your system, right? And knowing your teammates, having chemistry with your teammates. And even though the Rangers, returned a lot of the same roster that ended last year, we of course know that roster compared to opening night a year ago is almost completely different, is almost over 50% different. So bearing all that in mind, I think, Dave, I'm sure you'd agree with me, we did not expect the Rangers to come out flying here in the first month or 2 of the season. And we expected some growing pains. And certainly that's exactly what seemed to show up on opening night against Pittsburgh. What were your initial impressions of that performance, which ended up being a 3-0 loss?
So defensively, they were fine. I know that
I agree.
people are going to be upset because there were some turnovers, there was some sloppy play, but defensively in their own zone, they were very good at keeping the Penguins out of that home plate area, the high danger area, and they gave Igor room to see the shot. And if you give Igor room to see the shot, he's stopping it. So defensively, they were fine. Offensively, obviously, that was a train wreck. And this is something we talked about all summer, they're going to be very inconsistent offensively, especially under Mike Sullivan, as long as they only have one guy that can move the puck up the ice.
Yeah, and I think you could argue, only 2 lines that really have any clue offensively. I mean, I like a few things that I've seen from Laba. Radish has a 19-goal season under his belt, although that was probably somewhat fluky because he was on a very bad Blackhawks team.
Taylor Radish looks awful, by the way.
I think he was a little bit better in the Buffalo game, but yeah, he did not have a good debut. I would agree, Dave. I will also say that just in general, they looked slow. And I think that was, I don't want to use the word alarming for opening night because it's just one game, but that was the thing that stood out the most in a negative way, was just they did not look fast either as a team, right? The way we talk about a team needs to play when they're connected, even if you don't have a bunch of individual burners on the ice, you can play fast because you can move the puck fast and anticipate both your teammates' moves and your opponent's moves. They didn't look that fast in that regard, and they looked slow in terms of individual foot speed as well. They lost a lot of races to pucks. JT Miller was lumbering up and down the ice. We know he's dealing with a lower body injury. The defense looks slow. Maybe Fox aside, his skating's, he's trying to improve it as much as he can as a 27-year-old player who has, the stride that he has at this point. So that was my main takeaway. Was they just looked a little bit like a slow, lumbering bunch. At the same time, they were able to slow the game down so that the Penguins weren't, taking advantage of them with speed. I don't think Pittsburgh is a particularly fast team or good team either, but that game was played on what I would say were the Rangers' terms. It was very low event, as you said, Dave. They kept Pittsburgh out of the prime scoring areas. They gave up a couple of empty net goals. That game came down to more of the fact that other than for a maybe 7 to 9 minute portion of the second period, they couldn't produce any offense whatsoever. They had a little bit of a push in the second period, but not a lot of scoring chances outside of that window. So that was somewhat that was kind of concerning as well. And I think a lot of fans may be rightfully wondering, where is the offense coming from? Firstly, and secondly, man, oh man, like why not try Gabe Perreault, right? And that's not what I'm saying, but I could see fans taking that opinion out of the opener because it's like, I'll take anybody who can make a pass or make an offensive play that could lead to some offense, because it was pretty dire on Tuesday night.
Yeah, Tuesday is one of those days you just write it off, and that's that. Unfortunately, it gets so many eyes because it was the opener, the home opener, all of it. New coach, new everything, and there were so many eyes on it, expecting the Rangers to win the cup overnight, and that's just not how it works. So patience is going to be a virtue, and I really hope people don't take that the wrong way, because this team needs to adjust to each other, to a new coach, to a new system, to new leaders in the locker room, to everything. And that's going to take time. So I hope people are ready for a 2013, an October, November 2013 type start to the season. I don't think we'll see them get blown out 9-2 and 6-0 back to back, but it's going to be inconsistent hockey for the first couple of months.
Yeah, and then look, you turn around 2 days later, you're up in Buffalo. It's their home opener. This is a team that is beyond desperate to be relevant again, to get back in the playoffs. They have some talent. They gave the Rangers a lot of trouble over the last 2 years. Even the year they won the President's Trophy, I remember the Rangers really struggled to play Buffalo well. Buffalo embarrassed them a couple of times last year. So, look, I'm not totally trying to gas up the Sabres here. I don't think that they're yet, at least, a legitimate threat in the Eastern Conference. But, you look at it, not an easy spot, right? You're going to another team's building for their home opener. They're going to be fired up. And what did the Rangers do? They outshot I think they started with a 12-4 shots advantage. Alexi Lafreniere scores about 11 minutes into the first period. Buffalo made a comeback, at least in terms of the shot clock. I think at one point they were out shooting the Rangers like 23-8 over kind of like the middle 25 minutes of the game. But the Rangers killed off a couple of penalties, stabilized, and then did what I think they have not been able to do under most of the last, 3 or 4 regimes of this team. They were able to score goals late in the third period to put the game away, right? They get a really nice goal from Carson Soucy, of all people, after Matt Rempe makes a great play to kind of initiate the forecheck. And then less than 3 minutes later, JT Miller scores on a deflection, again, right off of a straight forecheck play. Rangers dump it in. Lafreniere first to the puck, bumps it back to Braden Schneider. Quick point shot, deflection goal. One of the most simple hockey goals you can imagine. So that was really encouraging. Then they also get an empty netter from Adam Fox. So he gets on the board, and it's a shutout for Igor Shesterkin. That's about as good as a first win for Mike Sullivan as you could draw up, I think.
Yeah, there are no complaints other than the Vincent Trocheck injury.
Mhm.
and we'll have to monitor that. Uh, they still had some issues, resolved itself a little bit over time, moving the puck up the ice, and that's really going to be my focus when I watch is how are the other four defensemen, Gavrikov doesn't really count in this scenario. How are they adjusting and how are they getting better at moving the puck up the ice? And I really want to look at Schneider and how he looks and improves from games 1 and 2 through game about 20,
Yeah.
because that's going to make or break this team. Sully is going to do what Sully does. It's how are they going to be able to transition to offense?
Yeah, I think that's a great point because, even though the Rangers end up giving up 37 shots tonight, a lot of those were low danger. Um, and I thought that, they did a pretty good job defensively again, not allowing too much from the high danger areas. I thought this was a great game from Vlad Gavrikov, by the way. He was noticeable in terms of his defense, right? Breaking up plays, breaking up zone entries. Anytime a puck went into a corner and it was Gavrikov's corner, he won the puck and did help the Rangers get out. But I agree, there were not a lot of clean zone exits, right? It's one thing to dump the puck in a lot. This is something that Sully has called out in his press conferences. Carolina and Florida are two of the highest dump in rate teams in the league, right? So it's, I know we kind of got on that in that mindset a few years ago of like, well, you have to have clean zone entries. And, there was some correlation when the game was kind of stylistically played that way, but dump and chase hockey is a lot more in vogue now and effective now. Of course, it depends on the style of team you have, but my point is that you still need to get the puck out clean with possession. It doesn't mean anything if you don't at least get it to the red line to execute that dump in, because otherwise you're either icing the puck or you're turning it over to the other team. So it's a great point, Dave, about how are the Rangers getting out of their zone. And, if the forwards have to come back that much deeper to help, then that compromises your ability to use an overused hockey cliche here, play north, right? Get the puck up the ice quickly. If all five forwards have to kind of stay deep and help get it out in the first place. So, um, that's definitely something to monitor. But I will say that Gavrikov stood out to me. I thought he was excellent.
Gavrikov was excellent.
Yeah, I thought Noah Laba had another good game. I know he had a kind of an ugly turnover during one of the penalty kills, but he again looks like he fits in completely has fit in seamlessly, I should say. Panarin is starting to shake off the rust. He looked a little bit more like himself. And then honestly, I thought Alexi Lafreniere was probably the best player on the ice. He ends up with 2 points in the game, scores the opening goal of the season off of, just with people leaning on him, dirty goal around the side of the net off a rebound. And then makes a great play, as I said earlier, kind of initiating the forecheck and then gets it back to Braden Schneider and JT Miller with the deflection goal. So, I thought Dave Lafreniere for me and he was pretty good on opening night too. He was one of the few players that popped a little bit. So, man, it does change the equation a little bit if Lafreniere is back to what he was like 2 years ago and maybe ready to make a leap beyond that.
They not only do the Rangers need that, Lafreniere needs that. He
Yeah.
needs to put a lot of those demons behind him, and a strong 82 game campaign will silence a lot of haters. So hopefully this is not a blip, because he looked really good in October last year and then everything fell apart. So let's see how he looks. 20 games is my cutoff for true analysis. It's been, the two of us have had the same stance on that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how they are in, 20 games in November-ish. And that's why you're not going to see me get overly reactionary or emotional about these games right now. Let's just see what they do and then let it play out. There's a lot of people that already called the season over after the first game. So,
of course.
yeah.
So
just breathe, folks. It's okay.
yeah, and you know what? I think my expectations are, and I know we didn't really get a chance to do, predictions or if you guys did, I was not on that particular podcast, but look, my prediction for this Ranger team would be to make the playoffs and give it hell in the first round. And if they win a round, great. But like, I don't necessarily expect them to win the Stanley Cup or contend seriously for the Stanley Cup. I still think that that's maybe a year or two away. And obviously you want to fast track that a little bit. None of these key players are getting any younger. We know that, but they have to get back to an identifiable style of hockey, which they just have not had in years, really. And to that point, Dave, I pulled up the natural stat trick numbers from this game. Take them with a grain of salt, because I always wait for Valley's, hand counted clear sight analysis data the day after. I think natural stat trick had the Penguins down for something like 12 high danger chances on opening night, and I don't think that was even close. And Valley had them for 4. So that just shows you the discrepancy between, auto log data using, puck tracking and, no human eyes to sort of evaluate whether or not it was actually a really good chance. But, I think I'm going to read these numbers anyway, because I do think it speaks to Sully's preferred style of hockey.
Are you going to look at 5-on-5 or all situations?
Just 5-on-5. Yeah, just 5-on-5. Scoring chances were 14-11 for the Rangers. High danger chances were 4-4 each. And the expected goals were basically a 50-50 wash. And if you do it score and venue adjusted, they have the Rangers winning the expected goals battle, 53% share to 47% share. So, but this was a very low event game. You're talking about 92 total shot attempts at 5-on-5, 8 total high danger chances at 5-on-5. It was low event. It was pretty much a low scoring 1-0 game until the last 5 minutes when the Rangers got that second goal and Buffalo finally had to open it up themselves. And I think that this is how Sullivan wants them to play. I do not think you're going to see a lot of track meets. Dave, we were joking before we recorded. You were like, let's hope for a blowout. We could start recording early. I don't think you're going to see a lot of blowouts either way this year, because the Rangers don't have a ton of firepower, but they're also not going to give up, bunches of goals if they stick to their defensive principles and if Igor and Quick are right. So I just think that, those numbers, even if they are at odds with whatever Valaket posts on Friday or Saturday, whenever he posts those numbers, I think they do kind of give you a solid sense of how the Rangers want to play this season.
Yeah, and that's Sully hockey. I'm intrigued to see how this team looks if they continue to be inconsistent offensively. Because, like we said, the offense dies when the top 2 lines and Adam Fox are not out there. There's no offense. They're basically just hoping to survive. And you can survive against Buffalo and Pittsburgh. You can't survive against Florida or Carolina. Mm-hmm. That's not how that's going to work. So I'm intrigued to see what that looks like, but I do also want to call out Mika Zibanejad looks really good.
Yeah, he was good again tonight too. I agree.
Yeah, he is firing on all cylinders. He has not scored, but he is generating offense. I think he and Lafreniere have been the 2 best offensive players so far.
I agree.
And obviously Adam Fox has been the best Rangers defenseman both games. He was great in Pittsburgh. They just couldn't against Pittsburgh. They just couldn't do anything. And Fox is Fox. I still believe Fox has an outside chance of winning the Norris Trophy if the Rangers actually score an average of 3 goals a game. Mm-hmm. I think Fox will be involved. If the Rangers score an average of 3 goals a game over 82 games, Fox probably has 70 points.
Yep, I think that's right. In the first game, I know Mika Zibanejad had 7 shots on goal. I think he had 12 shot attempts. In this game, only 1 shot on goal, but I'm also looking at Lafreniere had 5 shots on goal in this game. So to your point, those 2 guys seem to be firing on all cylinders early. The other thing about the Trocheck injury here, and look, we hope this is a non-event and he can be back in the lineup on Saturday. But if he misses time, look, will they probably just slot in Juuso Parssinen and maybe give Laba a chance to play with Panarin or JT Miller? That's possible. But there is a world where you move Mika Zibanejad to center now, right? You just and you keep.
I think
Laba.
They have to.
Yeah, that's probably the more, especially if Trocheck's going to miss any significant time, I would just move Zibanejad to center, and that is what Sully did in the third period. Zibanejad pretty much played exclusively center. He broke up him and JT Miller. So if Zibanejad's focused, and if he doesn't need to ride shotgun with JT Miller, he should just play center. The Rangers would be so much better, and I think that's if he plays center and and he still looks good, and the Rangers are winning games, that opens up a whole world of possibilities and raises the ceiling of the team significantly. Where I said 5 minutes ago, I really don't expect them to do much more than make the playoffs this year. I think you're talking about a much more serious ceiling if Zibanejad's at center, because again, fully healthy, Miller, Zibanejad, Trocheck down the middle, Noah Laba as a 4C, right? Carrick as a, who knows, or maybe Carrick's your 4C and Laba can play wing. But you're just so much deeper down the middle, and that's really what Stanley Cup contenders are made of.
I'm still into if Trocheck is out long term. I don't see a world where Parssinen isn't in the lineup for a little bit. So
he'll play on Saturday if Trocheck's out, no doubt.
Yeah, and it's just like you said. I think they have to make it back at center for this. You can't have you can't put Parssinen in as the third line center. You can't do it, even if Laba moves up. You can't do it, but we'll see. I'm not overreacting to that injury. I think it was just a precaution.
Yeah.
Who do they have on Saturday?
Oh, good question. I got to pull up the Rangers schedule.
Oh, they do. It's Pittsburgh.
Oh, right.
They're in Pittsburgh.
And isn't it back-to-back? Don't they play the day after that too?
Yeah, they play Sunday too at home against
the Caps.
Honestly, the Rangers really should beat Pittsburgh.
They should.
And they really should beat Washington. Washington is not good defensively.
Yeah.
They're not. So
tough on a back-to-back, but I will say that like 3 points is possible this weekend too. Like let's say, if you can beat Pittsburgh in regulation, then get to overtime against Washington, I would be satisfied with that.
Yeah. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, and then a tough week next week with the Oilers coming to the Garden on Tuesday, and then the Rangers go to Canada for the Leafs and then the Canadians. So those will be interesting games. Yeah. So no, you're right. I mean, you want to try and get points against these weaker teams for sure.
You need to bank points against these teams because Montreal is apparently good. Toronto is Toronto, and Edmonton. I mean, Edmonton's going to be the first true test of how good defensively this team is, because that can get ugly real fast if the Rangers are anywhere near thinking that they can just take the night off.
Oh, totally. All right. So if we have questions, let's get to those. I know we wanted to move this along, and no, good. I mean, look, 2 games. I think we saw really equal parts, good and bad. And I'm interested to see what the questions look like now as well, because like you said, people were definitely panicking on Tuesday night, and now they're probably feeling a little bit better here as we record on the Thursday.
Yep. So I'm also half asleep right now, guys, so deal with me. There are 4 questions on Blue Sky, and I haven't checked the post on the site yet, so let's just run through this.
All right.
We have on Blue Sky, first from JW. With McDavid, wow, that's how tired I am. McDavid and Eichel off the board. How do the Rangers make a big change? Doesn't seem like the spots that need filling can be filled with people in the farm system, and other players are aging out. Do the Rangers need a new marquee player to compete, or just rebuild?
Wow. I think that, as evidenced by several trades, even though, we kind of do comment often about how the NHL, doesn't necessarily have a plethora of blockbuster trades, there have been enough that, pretty much anything can happen on the trade front. So like, I think that would be what the Rangers would do. I do not think a full-scale rebuild is happening anytime soon. I think, and we talked about this over the summer, I think they believe that they can make the playoffs this season, and I think that they believe they can retool enough, either at the deadline and then next offseason to be in the conversation as a Stanley Cup contender next year. So Now, look, I think a big part of that was, especially with all the salary cap space they're going to have, was going to be, leveraging free agency and going after one of those marquee players. But, as the questioner detailed, Kaprizov, Eichel, McDavid all off the market. There's still
Honor
a few other
too.
guys out there. I know this is a massive class, but to answer the question, though, I think they do need another marquee player. I don't think they have the star player right now to win a Stanley Cup. So yes, but I don't know how you acquire that guy. But it
So
can be done. I'll
it
say that.
can be done, and I think that guy now they're shifting to Jason Robertson.
Okay. That'd be pretty good.
There were rumblings the Rangers wanted him last year. I don't know how true those were, but looking at Dallas's cap situation, they are actually going to get some cap space back with Ryan Suter's buyout finally coming off the books. But this coming off season, they have Thomas Harley as a restricted free agent. Obviously, Robertson is restricted free agent. Then it's Maverick Bourque. I don't know what some of these guys are going to get, but Bourque Bourque was a 70-point player in Texas last year,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 years ago, and he put up 11 goals, 25 points. Depends on the salary cap season. They should have enough room, but it's really how much cap space they want Robertson to eat up. So I would think they go after Robertson. There's no names out there that we can look at that would qualify as a marquee player. They have to start manufacturing their own marquee players at some point.
Yeah, it's true.
And I don't necessarily agree that the Rangers need to get somebody. I think they don't need that big change like you were saying. I think you just let Perreault and Berard and Laba, you just let them play, see what you have before you bury them. This is classic
Yeah.
Rangers.
No, you're right.
You have Gabe Perreault fell 13 spots to you. See what you have before you go and sign somebody. Although I do think I think Panarin winds up getting traded at the deadline. You can't, even if they're in a playoff spot, you can't let Panarin walk for nothing.
Or they resign him.
I really hope they don't do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. The only other big name that I guess would still be available, I'm not even going to count Adrian Kempe, but
No.
Martin Necas is a
That
potential
no
Panarin replacement.
no way is he getting the free agency. Colorado will not butcher that after forcing a Rantanen trade because they didn't want to pay him $12 million. And now Kaprizov gets $16 million, so no matter what, they got to give Necas $12 million.
Right.
So I don't think they're gonna let that happen. I think they're
Yeah.
gonna, although I like Necas.
Yeah, no, and I think he would
yeah.
be like a Panarin replacement, but also like in a weird way, he's less of a true star. Like Panarin was a big time star when he came here. Necas will give you similar production, but he's kind of like he's not like a headline type player. So you get to replace the production, but he's not necessarily like coming in with, say, the expectations that an Eichel or a McDavid would have had. Not that I think they wouldn't have handled them, but he just would be like a perfect Panarin replacement. Okay, I mean, good question. No, and look, I think you make a good point about whether it's Perreault or another player that they draft at some point in the future, if they're lucky enough. They do need to have their own franchise star players. Like that's a big part of this, and that's the best way forward.
Yep.
So good call. Next question.
All right, from DSAM. First impression of all the new guys that played. Who stuck out? Derogatory or endearing? What are you expecting from all of them after getting a very quick glance. So all the new guys. You want to do rapid fire? I can
Yeah,
just read them off, and
yeah,
we'll both
rapid
give
fire.
quick impressions.
Yes.
All right. Are we counting JT Miller as a new guy?
No.
Okay. Taylor Radish, brutal.
Meh.
Yuso Parsonen, not playing, also meh. Noah Laba.
Fine.
Yeah,
Not
fine.
great, but fine.
Yeah, I like fine. Connor Sheary. You notice how all three of the new guys are on the same line?
Yes, it's very funny.
Connor Sheary.
Okay.
Nothing crazy. Better preseason than first two games, but let's give him a little time. It's also, between Radish, Parsonen, and Sheary, you're not losing sleep if you lose one to waivers.
Right. He's also been the best of those three.
Yes. Okay. Gavrikov, we went through this already. He looks great. He
Yeah.
He really does.
Rough opener, but he'll be fine and was excellent in game 2.
Are we considering Carson Saucy a new guy?
Well, I think it's worth just talking about him for 2 seconds because he too had a better second game than first game. And I think he really is like the swing player here, as in if he's fine or good, even if he can, inch it over the line and be a good, solid player, again, that just stabilizes things further and probably makes this team a little bit more viable moving forward. And look, there is history there. He was not the train wreck that we saw when he came to the Rangers last season. So let's see if he can get back to that. He's been okay. I'll use the word okay.
So I'm not a big Susie fan. Obviously his name is Susie, not Saucy. That's a running gag for anybody who might be tuning in for the first time.
It's a bit, if you will.
Yeah. I don't like the foot speed. He was better tonight, whatever tonight. Yes, we're recording. Oh my God, I need to go to sleep. All right. I do differ from you on who that X factor on the blue line is, not including Braden Schneider because that's the easy answer.
Mm-hmm.
Will Borgen.
Okay.
I like his foot speed. I don't like anything else about his game. But again, it's been 2 games, and I'm not counting last season. So I'm not a big fan of the Rangers blue line after 2 games, but we have to give them time. Like I said at the beginning, I really want to see how these guys adjust and who steps up and actually getting the puck up the ice. And when I say up the ice, I don't mean these home run passes. A little touch pass from the corner to the dot to start the transition up the ice. That's all you need. Mm-hmm. And only Fox can do it. It's absurd that only one guy's able to make that 5-foot pass.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Like, what are we doing here?
It's a great point. And no, I mean, look, the defense core overall, there's major questions about how effective their puck movement will be. I think Schneider needs another couple weeks, and I know we want to give everybody at least till Thanksgiving as usual, but I want to see Schneider, get into this season quickly because he's coming off surgery. Yes, we know he was, a little bit compromised during camp, but he has the highest ceiling amongst all of those guys that other than Fox. We know what Gavrikov is, he'll be fine, but like Schneider needs to be, he just can't be a third pair defenseman for his entire career. And, I think maybe he deserves the opportunity to play more minutes. And we'll see if Sullivan agrees as he gets healthier and more into the season. But, I mean, to your point, Dave, he should be a guy that they can depend on to get the puck out of the zone, either with a smart outlet pass or just by skating it out. Cause he is a good skater.
Yes, he is.
But, you're right. It's certainly, that I am usually watching exactly what you were saying, Dave. Like, are the Rangers getting out of their own end effectively, or is it just like glassing out and pray and, pray the other team fumbles the puck so you can change and maybe get on them?
We've been on this whole getting out of the zone thing for a decade.
Yeah. Well, the team's like always in the bottom third of the league in Corsi and expected goals. And you wonder why. That's the reason.
Yeah. We went from glassing out Girardi to glassing out McDonough which was unfair to McDonough, to glassing out everybody, not
Ryan
Fox.
Lindgren.
Ryan, oh God.
Yeah.
I was lumping him in with everybody, but like we haven't had somebody other than Fox that can move the puck up the ice consistently.
Yeah.
What's like, you got to be shitting me with this.
And if Morrow is having a good year in the AHL, which, and not just in terms of scoring, although he did score a ton last year in the AHL for the Chicago Wolves, the Hurricanes farm team. If he looks good, I think you got to try and get him in the lineup somehow. It's just because you need that puck moving ability.
Yeah, you do. You have to make room, and if you make room by shifting Schneider to the left, God, say that 5 times.
That was
fast.
good. That was well done.
And just getting Saucy out of the lineup, or oh my God, I need to go to bed. Vakanainen
Yeah.
out of the lineup. Okay, I am falling asleep and I can't do names, so we have to move on.
Let's keep going.
Sorry.
We can do this quick.
All right, Tyler, you're getting it quick. Sorry, buddy. Why do the Rangers insist on playing injured players, Miller in particular? I don't know if this is an issue for every team. I think it's the hockey mentality of I can fight through it, I can fight through it, I can fight through it. At some point, the medical staff needs to say something, but we're not going to see that change in our lifetime.
Yeah, totally. And it is a mentality thing in the culture of the sport. Also, look, these games are not important in the grand scheme of things because it's so early in the season, but I think JT Miller has a lot to prove. He was named captain. I think the Rangers want to get off to a good start. I think that if he's told by a doctor, you cannot injure this, you cannot worsen the injury by playing, he's going to play. So for better or worse, that's what's going to happen here. And, we'll see if the Rangers end up paying for this. I do think that it does seem like the type of injury that can't get worse. And he did look marginally better in the Buffalo game than he did in the Pittsburgh game. So as long as we see steady improvement and he gets back to what he looked like, when he was at his best last year and 2 years ago, then it's fine. But no, I agree. Look, why not be super cautious? It seems to be what they did with Panarin. It seems to be what they did with Trocheck now, obviously with his injury in the Buffalo game. So, we'll see.
All right. Next, from Just Mike. This is the last one from Blue Sky. Rangers are going to fumble Panarin's next deal and get nothing for it. I am not sure if you're implying that the Rangers are going to give him too much money or if they're just going to let him walk for nothing. I don't think they're going to let him walk for nothing. I wouldn't be surprised if they give him too much money, though. You're on that one.
Yeah. I think he's implying that they'll let him walk and not get anything for him. I agree. I don't think they'll do that either, especially given the state of the free agent class. I think they would have been more likely to do that if they knew one of Eichel, Kaprizov, or McDavid was going to hit free agency. They would have taken the risk knowing that they need to clear the cap space. So, yeah, now those guys are off the board. My money's on them re-signing him by December or January.
I really hope it doesn't come to that, but I think they have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
Though I would like them again to just let the kids play. You can't keep giving spots to 35-year-old guys, even if they're Artemi Panarin.
Yeah, no, I know.
All right.
A few more
on the site. We have 11 comments. I'm not sure how many of them are actual questions. From Spozo, what's your take on the 100-year jerseys? He is not a fan personally.
Oh my God, I love them. Couldn't disagree more. I think they're fantastic.
So this is where my color blindness is going to show. I thought those pants were red. Apparently they're brown. I think they look fine. I wouldn't take my word for it, obviously, because of this very obvious reason.
Are they? I feel like are they brown? I feel like they kind of maybe they're a different shade of red. They don't read as brown to me either, Dave. So I'm kind of, maybe I'm colorblind too.
That makes me feel a lot better. Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that. I'm not sure if you did that on purpose or you're, just trying to make me feel better.
No.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
I love the jersey. I love the shirt itself. I think it's beautiful though.
Yeah, I do like the sweater. I do like the jersey.
Yes.
It's the pants I'm not 100% sure on because I have no idea what color it is. All right, next.
Next question.
Venra 6891. What are each coach's responsibilities on the team? Power play, penalty kill, defense, line changes. Okay, Quinn runs the power play and the defense. Sacco runs the penalty kill. I don't know what I don't know what Hennis does. I have no idea what Hennis
Same.
does.
No idea.
So sorry for the not the greatest answer, but not entirely sure. Honestly, we know Sully is the grandmaster or the key master,
Mm-hmm.
and we know Quinn does power play and defense. It makes sense that Sacco would do penalty kill because that's his bread and butter. Line changes, if since you listed it out, I think that's each coach running the specific area. So
Yes. Well, and
Quinn
usually
would,
the head coach will call the forwards too.
yeah. And I think the defense, I think Sacco would run the matchups on defense.
Yeah.
So I could be 1,000% wrong on that.
I caught Quinn coaching up. I think it was Susie, I want to say, or Borgen. One of them had a pretty brutal turnover that led to a scoring chance against. And, I think they went to commercial. They came back and they showed Quinn had had Borgen and Susie kind of huddled over the clipboard, and he was coaching them up. So good to see David Quinn on the bench again, I guess, sort of. No, I mean, look, it may be very much the case that he's better suited to be an assistant. I will say that I think the players that didn't like him, other than Panarin, I think Panarin was kind of, I wouldn't say vocal, but I think it was pretty clear that he was not thrilled with him. I know Ryan Strome was the one that was like pretty outwardly like he did not like David Quinn at all. Fox apparently likes him a lot. So point being that I think that, the players have moved on from that and are totally willing to accept him as their assistant coach currently. And, again, we'll see how this pans out. Generally, this is the kind of reminds me though of the Phil Housley thing from last year. Like if you think an assistant is that big of a problem, then just fire the head coach, because to me, it all just ladders back to him. This isn't like football with the offensive and defensive coordinator thing. If there's coaching problems, the whole staff's got to go, including the head coach. I really don't believe in like firing assistants and getting too deep in the weeds with that. I just don't think that makes much of a difference at all.
Mostly agree, although Lindy Ruff was not a good defensive coach for the Rangers. There are always exceptions. Fair. Yeah, and Lindy Ruff was somebody that had to go.
That's fair. No, that's a good point. And look, in terms of special teams, say what you want about Quinn and say what you want about the talent Pittsburgh had, but Pittsburgh, I believe their power play was 30th 2 years ago, and they was 6th last year. So, and Quinn ran the power play in Pittsburgh. So they had good results last year, and we'll see if the Rangers do not have a power play goal yet this season. I think they're 0 for 4 so far. So hopefully that gets going soon.
You read my mind. I'm actually pulling up the Rangers' high danger scoring chances while on the power play. They have 3 high danger chances total right now through 2 games. Obviously, that's a little skewed because it puts them 6th in the NHL. That's skewed. So 3 over 2 games is really not great.
No, it's not.
They didn't have any power plays though.
No, they haven't had a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
But you do want, you want to have probably 3 a game, 3 high danger chances a game on the power play.
Depending on the number of power play. You want 1 per power play, basically.
At least 1 per power play, yeah.
Yes. All right.
Maybe 1.25 per power play if you're really
Yeah, exactly. Like the Rangers when they were the top power play in the league, they were automatic. They were converting at 25-30%.
Yeah, and they were. I mean, their expected goals numbers on the power play were astronomical. I mean, they were so dangerous all the time. That was something.
That was a fun year.
Yes.
All right, Richter, 1994. When will the Rangers win their next Stanley Cup, and will we be alive to see it? It's funny because I thought, Rick, there, I thought for the longest time you were like 70 years old, and then you said Jonathan Quick's older than you. You're going to be alive for the next one. Don't worry.
Yes.
I'm older than you, and I'll be alive for the next one.
Yes.
Now,
It'll happen.
the fun question is who wins a cup first, the Jets or the Rangers?
Right. And it's
Well,
the
who
Rangers.
wins the championship first?
Right.
Not a cup,
I think it's the
obviously.
Rangers by
Well, yeah,
probably comfortably.
yeah. I don't think I'll be alive for the Jets to see us to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, me either, unfortunately.
Fun. Anyway, Blue Shirts asks, is Sully really as good as advertised, or did he benefit from a prime Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, and Marc-Andre Fleury?
I think the way I would answer that is look at how good defensively the Penguins have always been under him. And that was not always the case. And also one of the hardest things to do. Maybe Crosby's the exception because he's just such a perfect hockey player. And it pains me to heap that sort of praise on him because he is like maybe not public enemy number one anymore as a Ranger fan, but like he was one of my most hated players and over the last 20 years, and he's been in the league for 20 years now. But his two-way game is elite, has been elite for a long time, predating Sullivan. But the hardest thing to do, and as proven, by the way, by Gerard Gallant and David Quinn and by Peter Laviolette, is to get high skill players to play defense. And Mike Sullivan and his Pittsburgh Penguins teams were always good defensively. The reason, if they did have years where they gave up a lot of goals, it was because of goaltending. It was not because of defensive play. So to me, I think he's as advertised. And I think once the Rangers really understand this system and they can read and react and anticipate and know what they're supposed to do in their own zone, in terms of giving up a lot of chances, I think they're going to be a good defensive team. Maybe not very good because, yes, there are some talent deficiencies that still need to be addressed. But I think this is going to be a solid defensive team. And I think if a coach can get a bunch of star players to play defense, he's a good coach.
Yep. I agree with you there. And we just have to look back at Tristan Jarry's performance last year. The Penguins are a playoff team if they have remotely close to league average goaltending.
Right. And they were like an aging roster that is pretty much on its last legs. And outside of the Hall of Famers did not have a lot going on.
And most of those guys have at least an extra season on their legs, probably closer to 2 with the number of times they've made the playoffs.
Right. Right. And Stanley Cup finals over the years.
Yep. Yeah. So he is as advertised. Again, we have to be patient. I know this was asked 5 hours ago, so before puck dropped tonight. So that question was based off of one game. We need to be patient. We have to be patient. Let them figure it out. And let's see how the roster unfolds. I am not a big fan of essentially running it back with the same lines, like we said before. The third line is the only one that's new.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, it's true. Everything else is pretty much status quo from last year.
Yep. I'm not a big fan of it. So let's see how that shakes out. Let's see what the defense looks like. Let's see if somebody steps up and starts moving the puck up the ice. Let's see if they start playing faster once they learn where they're supposed to be and when. Because that's a big one too.
Totally.
We may be having these conversations, I don't think we're going to record on Thanksgiving. I actually have to work on Thanksgiving. Oh, but it's not going to be a fun November for me. Mm-hmm. But let's see where they are. And we may have this exact same conversation saying, what the hell is going on? Or we may be saying, oh, maybe we were right. Maybe patience was needed. And I think we'll have more detailed answers by then. Is it system? Is it personnel? Things like that. Which is actually a good segue to the next question. What does Sully need to change to get more offense out of his squad? This always happens. A new coach has a quote-unquote system he uses and tries to implement, but it doesn't have the right roster to do it. Going to have to make some trades or alter the system because we're not getting the results we wanted. And a roster fire sale. Listen, we wanted. Again, can't read. Going to have to make some trades or alter the system He's not getting the result. Okay. Oh no, it's not me. This is not an English sentence. Okay. Sorry. Two line passes. You kind of left out a verb, I think. Gonna have to make some trades or alter the system because we're not getting the results we wanted, resulting in a roster fire sale and years of horrible hockey and therapy. We may need to rebuild. Look at the average age of the forwards. But I think we covered what Sully needs, and it's aside from time, because again, you wrote this after one game. We got to see how this unfolds. I get the Rangers lost essentially 1-0 and didn't look good against Pittsburgh, but it was one game.
Yeah, and also, look, a good coach will adapt the system to the players. And you know, we throw the word around a lot, system, and every time it's a new coach, it's a new system, and blah blah blah. But like ultimately, you know, look, the Rangers are playing a pretty basic zone defense. Most hockey players can play a pretty basic zone defense. Does he need to tweak it to get more offense? No. As a matter of fact, one of the things this team has done habitually for the last 15 years, but well, not 15, because since Tortorella left, is sacrifice defense for offense. You know, they would cheat for offense. I mean, you know, this is something, you know, Brian Boyle has talked about this in very stark terms for years now, that, you know, they would cheat for offense and they wouldn't back check. And they were one of the worst rush defenses in the league. And that was pretty much the reason this team never reached their goals. You know, even Laviolette's first year, they had problems defending the rush. Everything else was pretty much okay. But they had got too many guys up the ice too quickly, and then guys didn't back check fast enough, or they couldn't back check fast enough because they were too committed up the ice. And, you know, I mean, they had goals scored on them where there were 4 guys behind the opponent's net at certain points. And you just can't play hockey that way. Everybody now is too fast and too skilled. You will get killed. So, no, I think the Rangers need to spend the next 2 to 3 months unlearning a lot of those bad habits and relearning how to play balanced, disciplined defensive hockey. And if every game is 2-1, then every game is 2-1. I think we're going to see a lot of 2-1 and 3-2 hockey this year. And that's okay. That is how a lot of teams win. When the Bruins were good, but like, you know, before Bergeron retired and before they, you know, kind of moved on from their current or their previous, you know, era of players, they were like the ultimate 2-1 hockey team. And I hated playing against Boston. I always dreaded those games. Pittsburgh was a 2-1 hockey team. Tampa was a 2-1 hockey team, at least their last cup run. You know, you can win that way. A lot of teams try to win that way. And with the Rangers goaltending, they can win that way. So I would say they don't need to change. Like, and Sully's not going to do this too. He's not going to change the system. He's going to get these players to play at a baseline, at least decent defensive and responsible hockey, and make sure that they're not overcommitting for offense, because it's more risky than it's worth.
Yep. All right. Richter added a reply to that, by the way. Richter 1994. He has a fix for the Rangers already. And I can't say that I disagree with this. I do think we'll see this by the time the trade deadline rolls around. In Berard, Perreault, I don't think Othman's it, so I'm removing that from your statement here. In Berard, Perreault, Morrow, out. Radish, Sheary, Saucy. I can't say I disagree with that. But I don't think it'll all happen right away. And again, almost all these questions came before the game started. So it's kind of funny reading them after the Rangers just shut out Buffalo.
Yeah, and also, look, I mean, even the Buffalo game, they kind of came alive the last 8 minutes of the third period, closed the game out really well. Buffalo did have a pretty dominant stretch from, I don't know, the last 5 minutes of the first period and the entire second period and a decent chunk of the third. Like, so, and there were plenty of things the Rangers were doing during the game that were pissing me off, that looked like bad habits from last year. I get why people were not impressed by the opener or even parts of the Buffalo game, but it's the second week of October, and there are just a lot of things that need to happen before the Rangers are going to make massive roster moves and, you know, uh, go on some sort of like tear here. They just need to like settle into a normal hockey season. Remember also the context of coming off of last year and what an absolute shit show that was on and off the ice, more importantly, off the ice. And this is something I said over the summer, Dave, and I know, you were on the pods with me when I said it. They just need to have kind of a drama-free first couple of months. I don't want to say the results don't matter because I want them to be in the playoff race, and I think they are a playoff team. But as long as they are just playing hockey and going through the process and doing the right things to try and get better each day and not getting derailed by drama in the locker room and drama in the press and, stuff with the God knows what, like that to me is a win. So I think like with the context of last year, like now you look at it, they just shut Buffalo out. They're 1-1. If they can just kind of like ease into their season here, those changes that Richter brought up, I think are certainly on the table as we progress through the season. They're certainly not going to happen all at once. And I don't think it's fair, by the way, to be like, hey, Connor Sheary, who earned a job in training camp, by the way, now should be cut from the team because of one game where he wasn't even a bad player in that game. So let's give these guys a chance. They're all going to get a chance under Sullivan here to show that they can be a long-term contributor.
Yep. So I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this last one because it's, again, more of a complaint. And first off, the second part of this, FYI, from G8 Lafreniere. FYI, I got $100 on the Sabres tonight. I'm happy if you placed that bet, I'm happy you lost it because I saw that comment on Brandon's post. Don't come after my writers. Don't do it. Don't do that shit. I'll ban you. And I'm doing this publicly so that people hear that. Don't come after my writers. Anyway, your actual question. Just curious, how is a rebuild looking now in all of your minds? Looks better to me by the day. Wrote 6 hours ago. I want to know if you are changing your tune after a 4-0 win. Are you going to live and die by each game's result? If so, maybe hockey's not for you.
October is just so different than December and then February and March and April. Like, yeah. And, look, I know people are passionate. I know you wait a long time. That was the longest Rangers offseason we've had in a very long time. If you think about it, with the way the schedule shook out with COVID, they made a bunch of decently deep playoff runs, a couple of conference finals. Last season was effectively over in the first week of April, even though, the last game wasn't played until April 15th or 16th. It was a tough offseason. So I will give people a little bit of grace that they were frustrated after the excitement and the, and all of the hoopla of opening night. That said, yeah, I mean, look, one single hockey game is not a referendum on an entire operation. And you have to look at the season, and what I think Valley looks at the season in 5-game segments. He's like, if what is his, like, there's 17 5-game segments, that would be 80 games. So he kind of, he rounds it off basically, but like, how do the Rangers do in the first 5 games? Are they 0-5? Are they 2-3? Are they 3-2-0? Are they 3-1-1? And are they consistent? Are they consistently having a winning record every 5-game segment? Are they kind of like way up and way down? Like, these are the trends we look at, and then we try to analyze, why are these things happening? So let's try and wait 5 games, and then let's wait another 5 games. Asking questions about a rebuild, I'll be honest with you, it kind of reminds me a little bit of, Yankee fans, and this is fresh in my mind as a Yankee fan, about Aaron Boone. And, I love my father dearly. I text him every day and we talk about sports every day. And at the Yankees lost and their season's over, and he's like, well, they got to fire Boone. And I'm like, the Yankees are not firing Aaron Boone. And there are a lot of fans who keep saying this, and it's just not going to happen.
Sorry, Tyler.
In similar fashion, the Rangers are not going to rebuild. You do not hire Mike Sullivan on a 5-year contract and then initiate a rebuild. They believe that they have a Stanley Cup playoff worthy team this year. And they, rightly or wrongly, I don't know, we'll find out, right? But they also believe that they're maybe 2 to 3 moves away from being a contender again. And so I think, look, I understand where people are coming from, but I don't think it's even remotely on the table unless this season goes completely sideways. And if that happens, then, maybe we can have that conversation in February or March. But after one loss, talking about a rebuild, especially after you've hired Mike Sullivan and, a lot of people are predicting, somewhat of a bounce back, it does seem a little bit foolish to kind of go that direction.
We're not doing a rebuild.
No.
Like, when this was written, it was one game. And a game that they allowed one goal.
Yeah.
I'm not counting empty netters. Yeah. And Igor saw every single shot clearly. They had one gaff off of a face-off that wound up in the back of their net.
Yep.
No team is perfect. Every team makes mistakes. And again, I'm going to go back to 2024. The Florida Panthers in 2024 were a very beatable team. The Rangers just did not kill penalties in that series. That was their mistake that year. They could have beaten Florida. Carolina's an amazing team. They made 2 straight mistakes in overtime games, and they were down 3-0 to the Rangers that year.
Yeah.
Like, teams make mistakes. Even the best teams make mistakes. Nobody goes 82-0. Nobody has 100% expected goals rate. Nobody has 100% Corsi rate. Are you fucking kidding me with this shit at this point? It's October 9th. And I might be a little bit biased because of who asked the question, because that comment really pissed me off. But let's just relax. There's no rebuild. If you want to rebuild, like Richter said, you got Laba in the lineup. You got Berard coming sooner rather than later. You got Perreault, who's going to be here probably by January. Morrow probably by next year.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? Jackson Darlington is looking really good. I'm not a big fan of Othman. You got EJ Emery, who is looking like an absolute stud defenseman. You got Drew. Is it Fortescue or Fortescue?
I say Fortescue, but yeah, I don't know exactly.
That's where we need JL. He knows names. You got Fortescue, who's coming up real soon. Who else did I miss?
Who was the name of the Malcolm Spence. The draft
Malcolm Spence. They just drafted him. Let's see. Who else is also looking good? Okay. Malcolm Spence, we spoke about. Emery, Fortescue, Perreault, Rubrick. Dylan Rubrick is a 9-foot guy who's better than Edstrom and Rempe. Like, Rubrick could be a third-line center at his peak.
Right.
Let's see. We got Laba. Adam Sikora, who's been with the team seemingly forever, but he just turned 21. Like, he's had 2 full seasons in the AHL. He's probably Othman's replacement. Better skater than Othman, better 5-on-5 player than Othman. He just doesn't have the power play time, and I think he'll start getting it soon. Who else is
maybe
there?
He doesn't need it. Maybe he doesn't.
Yeah. Maybe he doesn't need it. Yeah. Maybe they just need a feisty penalty killer. All right. So let's see. Brody Lamb, high ceiling. Yarrow Hemlash, high ceiling. I think that covers everybody else. I don't know what the hell to make of Matthew Robertson, but he's already with the team, and I don't consider him a prospect anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, look, ultimately, the process that was, like, in many ways, we're already in the rebuild. They started this process last year. They got rid of most of the core of the team. Jacob Trouba gone, Chris Kreider gone, Capo Caco gone, Philip Hedl gone. Like, this, Ryan Lindgren gone. So they have already turned this core over. Yes, they brought in veterans and a lot of those to replace a lot of those guys, but I think the approach here is going to be to develop the kids and not just throw them right in the NHL lineup, because that was the mistake they made with Kakko in the first place. And in some ways Lafreniere in the first place. Hopefully he turns it around. He's off to a good start, but the point is, you have a functional NHL team with a really good goalie and with enough talent to hang around and be dangerous. and you will spend the next couple of years developing what you hope are the next wave of great players for your organization. Oh, and you also have potentially upwards of $30 million of cap space entering free agency next offseason, which, look, yes, are there no star players on the market, but can you then go use that $30 million on three $10 million players? And wouldn't the Rangers look a lot different if they had, three guys who in this lineup who made 10 million a year and produced like $10 million a year players? Then you're talking about a pretty damn good team. So, they're not in a bad spot long term. And, and that's why, like, normally when you talk about rebuilds, you're looking at a team that is like in a bad spot long term, that just does not have cap flexibility, has just too many questions with the guys locked into the contracts that they're on. Even the Mika contract, which looked really bad and felt like an albatross, it doesn't feel so bad right now because the Rangers have a bunch of cap space and because he's shown he can play wing.
And he looks really good.
And he looks good. So and even if he stays on wing, that maybe saves his career as a Ranger and makes that contract palatable. So, look, there are things you can do that will can extend the life of the team and this regime's chance at getting the team to a position where they are constantly in the conversation as a Stanley Cup contender. I don't think they're there today, but I don't think a rebuild gets them there any faster than taking what they have now and building upon it would.
You know who needs a rebuild? You know what team really needs a rebuild? Nashville. That's your definition of a team that needs to just tear it down.
Yes, exactly. And the Rangers are not Nashville.
The Rangers are not Nashville. Nashville has, other than Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi, Stamkos is 100 years old, $8 million. Marchessault, I like Marchessault. $5.5 million is fine. Ryan O'Reilly is fine at $4.5 million, but they have nobody else signed.
They're just so old.
They're old.
Really
They're
too
34
old.
years old. Yeah. Roman Josi is 35 years old, $9 million. But Roman Josi is he's so good. Brady Shea is signed for an eternity at $7 million. Nicholas Hague has 4 years at $5 million but he's only 26. But UC Saros is signed for an eternity at $7.7 million. This team is not good, and they're not going to be good. I apologize in advance to any Nashville fans. Just calling it's not hate. I actually like Nashville. I just don't see that team being any good. Toronto, I can see possibly needing something soon because they have no depth, although they do look really good right now. Vancouver, another one. What is going on in Vancouver? These are teams that probably will be looking at a full teardown and a rebuild in the next 3 to 5 years. Nashville probably sooner rather than later. The Rangers are not those teams. Like, aside from Mika, who is 32, you got JT Miller, who everybody was just ecstatic about when they traded for him, so we're not going to go and be contradictory right now. Lafreniere is signed long-term. Trocheck is... I don't think Trocheck finishes out that contract. But other than that, then you got Will Cooley, you got Adam Edstrom, you got Noah Laba, you got all those kids we just mentioned. And then on the blue line, Fox, Gavrikov are an elite top pairing.
Yeah, they're in their prime. You can't worry about year 6 of the Gavrikov contract right now. You just can't.
Will Borgen, I hate that contract. But yeah, if you're going to look at the Rangers, maybe they need an overhaul on the blue line again, for the second time in 2 years. And I'm of that belief that they need another overhaul there. And Drury targeted the wrong people. But this is not a teardown team. You can move Othman for something tangible right now. And I think they should do that. Yeah. But that's a conversation for another pod.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, it's let's just see how they do after 5 games. And I think that's the next time we record the pod. They'll have about 5 games under their belt. So we'll have our first 5-game segment to analyze, and we can use the Steve Valiquette formula there. But ultimately, the Rangers get their first win in pretty satisfying fashion. Also great to hear Kenny Albert and Dave Maloney on the call for the first time. Our new TV
that was weird
crew. Yeah, a little weird. A little weird, but also like very obviously like a very good announcer crew to have. And built-in chemistry because they were on the radio for so long together. But yeah, I mean, look, good start to the road schedule. Rangers are 1-1, and let's see how the next few games play out. And I think, as we talked about, Dave, there's a few things to look for, and hopefully those are the things that Sully is targeting for improvement here over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and Sully's not dumb. He sees what we're seeing.
100%.
Yeah, and considering the Giants are absolutely laying it on against the Eagles right now, or at least that was the last time I checked.
They are. They're up 34-17 as
well. Oh, God, yeah, that game's over. Any team can beat anyone on any given Sunday, or in this case, any given day of the week, Thursday, Tuesday, whatever. Teams just have bad games, or your opponent sometimes just has a really good game, and you just deal with it. The Eagles losing to the Giants is proof that one game is not enough of a sample.
No doubt. All right. Always a fun time to get on the mic. It is a little bit late, but we wanted to get to the end of that Rangers Sabres game before we recorded. Thanks everybody for submitting questions. And we will be back with another pod next week.
Yeah. Any parting words, Rob?
Let's get some rest.
Yeah. So I do want to say, non-hockey related, shout out to all the, so I'm going to shout out to all the younger dads out there. And I'm saying dads in particular. Moms, we know your job is nearly impossible. We do the best we can. But newer dads, millennial and Gen Z dads, we're the first generations that have truly had to do the work balance with the raising the kids balance, along with our significant others, wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, whatever your flavor is. We're the first generation that has had to have two working parents and split everything down the middle. And wherever I go with my girls, to gymnastics, to any kind of outing, I see all these younger dads just fully engaged, playing with their kids. So everybody always asks how mom is doing, how mom's doing post this, how mom's doing after birth, how mom's adjusting to first kid, second kid, third kid, however many. Very few people actually ask how the dad's doing. So for anybody who is listening and you got a friend who's a new dad, just ask, hey, how you doing? We like hearing those questions because it means people care and people aren't just overlooking that, hey, we're not just the dad that, we're not just the father who planted the seed. I don't really know how else to phrase that one. But there's a whole new generation of dads that are out there doing everything they possibly can with their kids, and I love to see it. And I'm sure that somebody's going to read this the wrong way and get mad at me for this, but shout out to the dads, obviously moms too, but dads are the ones that have had their roles really changed over the last 30 years or so. And that's it. Rob, you're on mute.
When did I? Wow, that's so weird. I never mute.
Yeah, I don't know. I was wondering if you were like trying to yell at me and just didn't want to have it go on the pod.
I was just enjoying that. Your soliloquy there.
I watched you with your kids at the birthday party for my girls in June, and you are one of the great new dads that I've seen, and I haven't seen any bad new dads out there.
That's so nice. So nice of you to say.
You're doing an excellent job. You and Becky are doing an excellent job, and obviously, I'm sure Becky can relate that. A lot of people probably ask her how she's doing, but how many people, Rob, have asked you how you're doing?
I would say I have, we have good friends, so enough. But no, it's a good point. I would say that the gender roles have certainly changed over time. So the parenting is as much as we can make it a 50-50 thing here. it's really hard work. Love my kids to pieces, but certainly, it's a lot of work. It's draining,
Hmm.
and Becky and I do our best to support one another too, because sometimes one parent just needs a break, and the other parent's got to pick up the slack, and that's how it works. So, um, no, I know it's something you take pride in too, Dave, being a dad and raising kids. So, keep doing what you're doing. You're a great father as well. And like you
Thank you.
said, to all the dads out there, keep doing what you're doing. Stay involved, stay present, and uh, support the moms as well, because they definitely need it.
Yes, yes. Support the moms and also apologize to your kids when you know you screwed up.
Yes, it goes a
Yeah.
long way.
Oh yeah, yeah. You'd be surprised how much apologizing because we're nobody's perfect. If you are short for something, just apologize. They pick up on it.
No doubt.
All
All
right.
right. Well, as always, you get some hockey, you get some parenting talk. It's a beautifully well-rounded show as always here on Live from the Blue Seats. Um, we will be back next week. Thanks for listening, and talk to you soon.